This is basic architecture which is displayed here. Here you can see the number of images, the image database of let's say car, and this is the first layer of convolutional neural network where the image is convolved with a few sets of filters. Filters are nothing, just the matrices of size, let's say 2 by 2 or 3 by 3 small matrices. These matrices are convolved with the image sections. So what is image? Image is a matrix also. It is also a matrix having the intensities as the values in that matrix. So those matrix values are convolved. Convolution is a mathematical operation. Hope you understand what is convolution. So in the first layer, the convolution is done with various filters. And then there is a ReLU, that is a rectified linear unit, where actually in convolution, if few coefficients are negative, it makes them 0. Rather taking positive 0 and negative bipolar coefficients. So it converts all the negative coefficients to 0. That's simply a rectification part, so making the data smaller. And then there is a pooling network, pooling layer. So pooling layer combines all the convolution results, and it's sort of downsampling. So that means it reduces the size of the features generated after the first layer. And then these are repeated over the many layers. So this is a whole convolutional network. Let's say it has some 50 layers or 100 layers. So at each layer this is repeated. This means convolution and rectification of the coefficients, and then pooling of those coefficients. Suppose there are 50 layers in this convolutional neural network, then leaving the last 2 layers, the rest, the first 48 layers are used for extracting features. They all have the common operations of the convolution and this pooling. So the last 2 layers are fully connected layers, and they act as the classifier. So they classify the results or probabilities obtained from those previous 48 layers, and then on the basis of the probability they give the output result. You can see that the fully connected layers. Fully connected layers means that each neuron is getting inputs from all the neurons from the previous state. And then by applying a softmax functions for the obtained probability, we get the result. We have the few very popular architectures of these convolutional neural networks. They are very popular models used in deep learning. The very one popular is the AlexNet. So it's a deep neural network which has 23 layers. It's a 23 layers neural network which has those ReLU, pooling and convolutions operations which I have shown in the previous slide. And the one key point of this AlexNet was prior to this, all proposed deep neural networks were simulated on the CPU environment. In your computer there are 2 processors. One processor is known as the CPU, and second is called the GPU. CPU is the main processor which runs all your programs, your operating systems. It makes the environment. While the GPU is that processor which is known as the graphics processing unit, which is responsible for video and image processing. So if you play some video games, or if you see a video movie on your computer, then GPU comes in picture. So GPU has some different architecture. One GPU core has a very number of small CPUs inside it. So you will be surprised that for example your mobile phone, its CPU may be a quad core CPU, maybe a octa core CPU. It means that inside a single processing unit there are, if it's a quad core CPU, means there are 4 microprocessor units inside a one chip. So to speed up, they work in parallel, they distribute the work, and if it's a octa-core, that means there are 8 microprocessors inside one chip. So, but in GPU is much more advanced, and it has 200, 400, even 1000 and beyond number of CPUs in a single chip. So that is specifically made for to handle the video processing applications, because video generates lots of data in per second. You know what is video? Video is nothing but it's when we see video, it means you see the pictures one by one. So if I say that you are seeing a video of 30 frames per second, it means you are seeing the 30 photos in 1 second, one by one, and that's why you see that something is moving without any breaks or jitter. So video is nothing but one by one you are seeing the images, and suppose you are observing one full HD image, high definition image, and that dimension is 1920 pixels in horizontal and 1080 pixels in vertical. So how many pixels are there in one image? 1920 multiplied with 1080 pixels, and that's in one frame, one picture, and you are seeing the 30 pictures in 1 second, such 30 pictures, and those pictures are color. So each pixel is further divided into 3 pixels. So 3 means one is responsible for R, one is responsible for green, and one is for blue, and each pixel is governed by the 8-bit controller. So 8-bit controller means, so there will be the total 2 power 8 into 2 power 8, total 2 power 24 color combinations, and the number of data is horizontal pixels multiplied vertical pixels, total number of pixels multiplied into 3 because of the 3 RGB, and multiplied 8. So many bits are generated in one frame into 30. So in 1 second, the megabytes of data is generated in a video in full HD. So if you are seeing a video, that means your processor has to work extensively to display even a video, right? So in such cases, the CPU is not so efficient because of its architecture. It is mainly involved in running the your some main softwares or operating system. So that task is given transfer to the GPU. So AlexNet was the first architecture which was optimized and designed for running on GPU environment. So it gives a fast training. Second is the VGG NAT. It's a visual graphics group. That's why the short name VGG. Developed at Oxford University. It has 19 layers in the convolutional neural network. Next is the Google NAT. Google NAT is one of the famous architecture of Google Incorporation. It has it is a winner of 2014 ImageNet competition. There is a competition worldwide, happens every year, and it is the winner of 2014 competition, where it showed the excellent results and promising results in image classifications using deep neural networks. It has 144 layers, 144, so very huge network. So you can see the how many extensive computational power is required to train such models. So those giant companies have their sophisticated state-of-the-art laboratories or hardware. Next is ResNet. ResNet is the short form of the residual net. It is also one of the giant NAT having the 152 layers. It's one of the most complex network, but it's a very powerful. And next is the RCNN, which is a region-based convolutional neural network. It is slightly different than previous. It actually first segment the images into the various sectors, and it out of a complete frame, it identifies the different objects. For example, if I take a photograph of me presenting here, then it identifies the various objects and segment it. Take for example, it will classify me as a person, and then my laptop, screen, mouse, something, it will classify those objects separately out of the frame. So because of these features, it is very popular. You can see in the picture that a person riding the horse, it is identifying the horse separately, it is identifying the person separately. And one is the YOLO. There is another very popular architecture which is optimized to run in real time. Real time means that your autonomous vehicle, that means your autonomous car. So there is a camera on the car which is taking snapshots of the street. So it is in real time, it is identifying all those objects on the street. That means a person is riding in front of me. These are trees, these are traffic signals, these are some certain objects. So in real time, it is identifying those objects, and because of that, it is very popular in video processing applications, particularly in autonomous vehicles. The objective is, the technique is that it divide the images into various segments, as you can see that all square segments, and then it treat or identify the objects in each segment parallelly. And because of the parallel identification, it executes faster. That's why it is useful in real time. And after execution, when it gives some class, that's why this particular square belongs to this class, then it combines all those class for similar objects. So if it identifies, let's say 100 blocks related to the dog, so it combine all those 100 blocks related to dog. Once they are combined, then it draws the final bounding box of yellow color, and then it identifies that this is bicycle, this is car, and this is animal. We have other networks also. For example, the SqueezeNet. SqueezeNet is a very small in architecture, mainly optimized to run on low-end devices such as mobile phone. Mobile phone is not very capable hardware-wise, so SqueezeNet is mainly optimized to run on the slow-end devices. SegNet. SegNet is an architecture which is used to segment the various areas of image. And GAN is the Generative Adversarial Network. It is capable to generate new images from the raw data. So generally it is used in digit classifications. If somebody by hand writes, let's say alphabet, some A, or some numerals, let's say 1, not in the proper shape. So just by reading that improper shape, it generates the proper shape. So it has the capability to generate the new images of numerals and alphabets. Now this is of course important, and you must have queries about this, that how to implement such good technologies in my computer. Yes, you can implement. There are two ways. One is training from the scratch, and other is the transfer learning. See, training from scratch is difficult. Training from the scratch means everything you have to design from the scratch, from the starting. You have to select some network architecture, what I have suggested. So let's say you select a 100-layer deep neural network. Then obviously, as I said, to train such deep neural network, you need very, very large of image database. So image database must be in the millions. Some lakhs of images are required to feed the input. And because of very deep network, that means so many layers, it takes extensive computational requirement for training. So that's why you need a very sophisticated hardware, a very speedy hardware to have training. So if you are thinking that you will do everything from scratch on such machines, forget it. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. Even I think in India also you cannot do it from the scratch. So for that purpose, you have to take facilities of the giants in this area, such as Google. So Google has a facility. They give their hardware to the users. They have lab. They have invested millions of dollars. Government has invested millions of dollars in establishing those hardware labs. So we can also work on them, but few section of them is free, which is accessible to everyone for students. And if you are using for your commercial purpose, you want to develop your own product for your companies, then you have to pay some fees to the Google. So they charge per hour basis. It is not some monthly or one-time money. It's per hour basis. You have to pay in dollars. So Google, few people think that how the Google is earning. Google is giving everything is free. That how Google is earning? See, these are such things hidden from the common man that Google is earning billions of money like this. The big giant companies, suppose I am Amazon and I have to develop my own artificial neural network for particular applications, then I have to pay very heavy fees to Google, maybe in $1,000,000. So that's why Google is earning by the advertisement as well as such facilities which is being provided to other companies. So obviously the training from scratch is not possible on such machines. You have to take help of those sophisticated laboratories. Now, the second option is the transfer learning. Yes, we can do it on such machines, transfer learning. So what is transfer learning? It's a process that involves fine tuning of a pre-trained network. So suppose Google has done this job for us previously. They have designed some model from scratch. They have trained that model for, let's say, thousands of image categories for, let's say, 1 month. It is trained and now all weights are settled. So this model is now available as an open source to me. So I can use that model directly on my machine, because now training is over. I don't need to train again on my machine. So I have a pre-trained model, so I can use directly on my machine. So that requires a very few hardware capacity. For example, these AlexNet, GoogleNet, all these are open source. They are available for free. You can do for transfer learning. So we can understand better transfer learning by this diagram. So on the left side, this is a model of training from the scratch, and this is a model which is running on my machine. So this model was run in the Google labs, let's say, from scratch. So see the source data. For example, ImageNet. ImageNet is a database of images which contains more than 2 million images. So that means a very heavy database is used for train this source model in Google Labs. And then once this model is trained, what I will do at my local machine, right side, I will simply take the model. I will simply import the model to my machine, not training. So once model is imported to my machine, then I can use this imported model for fewer sets of training. Maybe if I am applying that pre-trained model on those images for which it is already trained, then there is no need of training again. If I am using it for something different task, then I need to prepare my own database also. Then there is no need of giving millions of images. Few thousand images are sufficient to have better results. So at my local machine, I can give the small image database and train this pre-trained model again. And with some fine tuning is also required to get better results. Parallel? No. No, it is not plagiarism, because someone has given free to develop your own model. They have given permission to do it. So this is called open source distribution. Plagiarism is something which is by unknowingly, without in the notice of that original person, you are doing utilizing his resources. That is plagiarism, and that's a fraud. So how to implement this transfer learning on my machine. So I have two environment. One is the Python. Python is a programming language. I hope few of you know about it. And other is the MATLAB. So these are the two programming environment in which I can implement my deep neural network. And also, depending on the computational power, I have two more choices. One is the cloud-based, which I have explained, because suppose you want to train large number of database and you don't have good machines with powerful GPU and CPU, then you can take the cloud services. So I mean, over the internet you can utilize a Google Lab, because Google Lab is not situated in India, it is in the United States. So there is no need to go US to train your data. You simply over the internet use a data and train the network there and import that trained network to your local machine. So that is the cloud based computing. And if you want to really work on the local machine like this laptop, again you have two choices. One is the CPU centric, other is the GPU centric. So CPU centric means suppose as I said, the CPU is not so efficient in doing the video operations or image operations because of its architecture. It is meant for different applications, while GPU is purposely developed for handling the video or images, right? So if your machine, let's say this is my laptop which has no extra graphics card. Some of you purchase laptop or computer with the graphics cards, let's say NVIDIA or AT Radeon something. So those graphic cards actually use the separate GPU. Okay, they are called the CUDA architecture. So that means one GPU chip has multiple CPUs inside it. So the work is done in parallelly. So GPU are more powerful than the CPUs. So depending on your machine, you can choose either CPU or GPU. But mind it, if your application is like in real time. Suppose there is a camera here and you want to identify the faces of or objects in this hall in real time, then obviously you need a very high speed hardware. So that means that will be feasible on GPU architecture. Because my computer has a limited GPU, so I will implement something on CPU with the same camera. So you will see that it is not running fluently, it has jitter and there are some frame drops. Here TPU is actually the synonyms of TensorFlow unit, tensor processing unit. It's a new architecture which is specially made for convolutional neural network implementation. Okay. So today we will learn deep learning implementation in MATLAB environment. I am not going to implement in Python environment because Python is not my expertise. My expertise in MATLAB, so I will go to MATLAB. It's a very easy. You can also try at your home on your machines if you have MATLAB. So I will go for MATLAB and the CPU version, not GPU version, because my machine has CPU. It's not a dedicated GPU. So one problem, the first problem I am taking is the digit recognition. So I have thousands of images of digits from 0 to 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They are written in small images, 28 by 28 pixels, and I will train my network, and once the network is trained, then I will give the image of any digit to my system, and then it will recognize that what digit is it. Okay. So for this purpose, I have to import the model. As I said, you have to import the pre-trained model. So TensorFlow, Keras are the pre-trained. It's a framework of implementing the deep neural networks. It has a very rich libraries. So first you have to import the TensorFlow Keras library into the MATLAB environment. Once they are imported, you have to import the model. For example, in the first step, importing the pre-trained network, which is obviously pre-trained on the digits, and that is known as the digits dagnet.h5. These are called h5 files. So it's a Kera library which is pre-trained to identify the digits. So that's the first step. And second is I have, let's say, 1000 images. So out of 1000 images, the 60% images, that means 600 images are given for training, and the rest 400 images will be utilized for testing. So 600 images will be given to the network, and network will be trained for identifying the digits. This is one example. This numeral 5, this is an image of 5 which is slightly tilted. It is given to the network, and network gives the output which is written over the image. So what the output of recognition classification result is 5. So my system identify that this is numeral 5. So let's see how it happens. in the MATLAB. So for this I have written few MATLAB code, and I will run this code one by one. So this is MATLAB window. On command prompt, first I will import the libraries. So I will simply copy it, Control C, and then Control V. ओ मेरा बटन भी ख़राब है इसमें कंप्यूटर में. Okay, this model is being imported. So you can see that MATLAB is busy right now. It has some MBs of size, so it is being imported. Now it is imported in the MATLAB environment. This is the database preparation. I have those training images. I will show. This is a problem. I am not getting anything in my screen. So I have to. Okay, so this is the database. Actually, I have given the path of the library. So let me open it. Okay, so here you can see the various folders. This is folder 0, so it is containing the images of 0. You can see total 1000 images of only 0 digit. So you can see they are drawn in various fashions, some tilted, some are not very clear, some handwritten images. So there are 1000 images. So each digit I have 1000 images. Similarly for 1, 2, 3 and 9. So this is my trend database overall. I will read all these images. So MATLAB is reading all those images. Now I am splitting the database. That means I am splitting all images into two groups. with a 60% for training and 40% for testing. So don't go in the details of code, just see what is happening. For example, like this in line, training file split ratio is 0.6, it means 60% is given for the training. Okay, it's done. And now I am giving some training parameters, that how to train. I will explain. You have flexibility to give the training. For example, that max epochs 6 and the initial learning rate. In those who are working in artificial neural network, they know what are the epochs and learning rate. So actually epochs are 6. So in each trial, that's actually giving the training one by one. It's a repetitive job. It's not training in one shot. It is repeated task. So with increased number of iterations, right? So everything is initialized. Now I will train the network. I will train the network, and the training will start. Okay, now training has been initiated. So my computer is taking the images from those directory, and it is giving to feeding to convolutional deep neural network, and neural network is updating itself with the weights. And see, this is my i5 machine with 8 GB of RAM. So you can see that this small program or small training is taking enough time. So you can see that first epoch is done because it has only single iteration. So it is done quickly, and it takes only 1.55 seconds with accuracy 13.28%. It has calculated accuracy. How accuracy? Because in the whole database, 400 images I have kept for testing purpose. So those 400 images are also given for testing, and the result has come out, and it is checked how many are correct classifications. So here success rate is only 13%. So now epoch 2 is done, and you will see that the accuracy is increasing. Now it is 67. So let's wait till epoch 7. I have given the 6 or 7 epochs. Third is done with 100 iterations, and accuracy now reached to 91%. After this, I will implement AlexNet and GoogleNet also. For them, I have already trained them, so they won't take too much time for training. So this is the case where we have 1000 images. Instead of 1000, we are taking only the 600 images for each numeral. So 600 images for 0, 600 images for 1, 2, 3, 4 and 9. So total images are 6000 images. So 10 classes, 10 category multiplied with 600. So 6000 images we are using for training. And those images are very small. They are not color images, mind you, they are binary images of 28 by 28 pixels, very small. And even with this small database, my machine is taking too much time, although it's a i5 8 GB machine. So now accuracy has reached to 99%. ये सजेशन अच्छा था स्क्रीन हटाने को. It is somewhat reduced also. There are some local minima maybe. So there is a ditch. Okay, it reached to 100%, just 7 epochs. If you train for more epochs, you will get better results. So just because of the time limitation, I have used 7. So let's see how the results come. I am reading image of numeral 5. You can see in this command I am read, and this is the path of that image, and numeral is 5, and image name is 4009.png. I can show you in that directory. So this image is read and it comes in the variable I. Now I will classify it. Let's see what is it. Let me show you what I have read from the directory. Okay, this is the image which I am giving it for testing. इस इमेज को मैं सिस्टम में दे रहा हूँ कि इसको आइडेंटिफाई करिए ये क्या है. Okay, now let's see what happens. We know this is 5. Let's see how computer interprets it. This command will classify this image. Okay, done, and let display on the image. Evaluate. See this. See the output. Initially this line was not there, so the classification result had inserted this output and it is identifying as 5, right? You can give few more inputs. So let's go into the directory. Let's say you want to give 9, and you take just one sample. You will take this one. Image is 8050. You want to test it. 8050. So just remember the name. During the read command, you just write the name here. 8050. Okay, my keyboard is also not working. 8050. Enter. Okay, this belongs to, sorry, there is a mistake in the command. This belongs to the category 9. Okay, this image is now captured, and then classifying it. Let me show this image by the imshow command. Imshow evaluate. So this is the image which I have given for testing. Okay, this is the 9. So let me see that how my system recognize it. So give the classify command. This यहाँ से दे देते. Classification done, and then inserting the title. See what is written there. Result is 9. So my system identify it as a 9. So you can give many images, it will identify correctly. Now I will implement the AlexNet for general image recognition, not for digits. So AlexNet I have already explained about. This is a pre-trained network which is trained for 1.2 million images of 1000 categories. So in our previous case, how many categories were there? Only 10, 0 to 9. So it is trained for 1000 different objects, okay, for 1.2 million images, and I am importing that pre-trained model to my local machine. So I will give one image such as this aeroplane, and let's see it is identifying it as airplane or not. So for that purpose, I have already written the code, AlexNet code, this one. So first let me clear the workspace, clear. Okay, the previously work done is clear, CLC, clear the command window, and now I will execute each command one by one. So this is net AlexNet. This command is actually importing the pre-trained AlexNet models layers. Evaluate. It is okay. Importing is done. Then if you want to see the layers, what are the different layers in this network, you can execute this command. It will show you the various layers of that CNN. Yes, these are the layers in this AlexNet, this version of AlexNet. How many layers? 1 to 25 layers total. As I was telling about that each layer does the convolution, rectified rectifications, normalizations and pooling, all those layers are doing these operations, and the last layers are fully connected layers. For example, that FC means fully connected layer for classification. So now next part, I am reading an image which is inbuilt image of pepper. ये मैंने image read कर लिया है. Let me see what is it. I am show. This is the image. I will give this to my AlexNet and let's see what these objects are. So instead of giving this whole image, I am giving only this section, only this green pepper, let's say, because AlexNet is not trained for region-based training segment. It is used for one item at a time. So let me crop this image. I will crop this image in 227 by 227. Actually, there is a limitation that if you want to train your AlexNet, the each image size must be 227 by 227 pixels. Okay, so this is image. This is the cropped part left corner, which I am feeding to the AlexNet. So let's see what is the identification. And this is the classification. Evaluate. Let's see, I have not put the semicolon, so result should be reflected in the command window. And let's see, this is the bell pepper. So my database is indexed or tagged database. So I have given the name to it. So this is identifying it as a bell pepper. So I will write this on the top of image. So I can also do it. Okay. Now I will select my own image, some other image. Let's say aeroplane or lion or something else. So just executing this command. It will ask me to select the image, so I will go to this folder, MATLAB codes. So let me select this pen, and what happens, this is resize and evaluate selection. So this is the image which I am feeding to the AlexNet. अब देखते हैं इसका recognition क्या है. So classifying this and writing on the top of the image, evaluate selection and see what happens. This is the result. So result is the ball point. So AlexNet had identified this image as a ball point pen. Let me give another image. So I can do it quickly in the command window. Okay. Let's say this aeroplane. Select it. I am read. I am resize. does not exist. Okay, I have to change the directory actually in E00TF MATLAB codes. Resize, I am sure this is aeroplane, and let's see the recognition result. Yes, output is airliner. So it is identified as airliner. You can write it on the top of image. So this is the output. Airliner is written here. Similarly, I can select another image. Let's say lion. I am read. I am resize. I am show. This is lion, and let's see what is the classification results. Label, classify, see the output lion. It is identified as a lion. So you can give any image and it will recognize it for you, right? Okay, the similar example I can show it for GoogleNet also. Only thing you have to change is this first layer, the first command. In the previous program you imported AlexNet layers. So here you are importing the GoogleNet. It's a pre-trained model. I don't need to train again. And rest of the commands are same. So you can get the similar results with GoogleNet also. So because of the last time I'm not showing this. Let me do something else, which is more interesting. Now I will use the recognition. I will use a web camera to recognize images in real time. Let's see what are the outputs. So this, I have a webcam, USB webcam. This is connected. White page होगा A4. So this is the command in the MATLAB to recognize this camera, which is the camera webcam USB to camera. So let me evaluate this, execute this command. So camera is connected. Now I am using AlexNet for image classification. So I am importing this AlexNet, evaluate selection. Yes, AlexNet is imported. And then I am capturing the images, evaluate, and keeping the image capturing in an infinite while loop, because it has to be in a loop. So executing this command, let's see what happens. So this is what the camera is observing, and on the top of the image you can see the recognition results. For example, the Granny Smith with the confidence score, spotlight, because nothing is given to it. So let me give the mouse and see the result on the top. It is recognizing it as mouse. Sometime with wallpapers and with the confidence score 0.5. It is recognizing as mouse, right? So let me put my pen and see how it is recognizing. It's slippery. My hand should be stable also. See the ball point and the tap. Okay, it is recognized as ball point. And let's see how this remote is recognized.
remote control. So, with a confidence score of 0.8, 0.75, it is recognized at remote control. So, doing good. And let's see what about this. Water bottle, quickly it did it. Pop bottle, water bottle. My hand is also shaky actually. So, it is a water bottle, right? It is recognizing this bottle. So many things you can recognize with this. Even let us see it recognize my computer or not. There is a darkness actually. See, computer keyboard. It is recognizing it as a computer keyboard. So, that is the beauty of image processing and deep learning networks. Okay. Okay, this part is done. How much time left? 15 minutes. So, in the remaining time we can start with some image processing fundamentals that will enhance your general knowledge also. I am not taking the study point of view, but as a general knowledge enhancement that will be useful for everyone. Image processing. Of course, it is in the base of all these operations, right? So, what are the applications of image processing? Image processing is enormous role in all these areas: astronomy, oceanography, medical, a lot of things we can discuss. Now, first thing is that how images are formed. Let us see how images are built by the camera. See, this is the object. This is the object of which I want to take a digital photograph. This is my light source, maybe sunlight or this room light. So, we know that what happens, those light rays fall on the object and then reflected, and those are captured by the camera lens. So, what camera lens does, the camera lens make a small crisp image of on the lens. Camera lens makes at its focal length. So, at the focal length, let us say this is the focal length. So, at the focal length, I have put a CCD chip. CCD chip means a charge coupled device ICs. They are a specialized chip which are responding to the image, light intensities. This is shown here. This is there is a glass window in the chip. That lens of camera makes a tiny image on this window. And what is actually behind this window? There are millions of pixels in this small window. This is hardly 5 mm by 5 mm or even lesser, maybe 2 or 3 by 3 mm square. In this small square, there are millions of pixels, and each pixel means it's a tiny transistor which is sensible to the light. So, if light falls on it, it produces some voltage. So, what happens if lens creates the image on this area? Obviously, depending on the object, there may be some lighter portion, there may be some darker portions on this window. So, the pixels or transistors behind the lighter portion, they will produce more charge, more voltage, because they are receiving more light. This voltage production is proportional to the light intensity. So, more light means more charge is produced, and those pixels or transistors which are lying behind the darker side, they are producing lesser voltage. So, it means my physical object, the optical object, is transformed into the electrical domain in terms of the voltages. So, each tiny dot which is known as a pixel or
the transistor is producing voltage according to or corresponding to the light falling on it. So that's why how the images are digitized. Now the problem, one information loss is here. What is that? The light rays are coming from this object, okay, and they are falling on the pixels. Now what is the arrangement of the pixels? The pixels are not continuous object, they are discrete dots. So there is a one pixel, and after a certain micrometer or nanometer there is another pixel, after a certain gap there is another pixel. So the pixels are arranged as you can see that grid. So each square is representing one pixel, and there is a slight gap of nanometer or micrometer between the two pixels. So if some light is falling on that gap, that means that gap is never converted into voltage. So that information is completely lost while capturing or converting images into the digital. So in real world the images are analog in nature, and after that they are digitized, and because of these dots or pixels. So this is the primary loss in the image digitization because of the pixel gap. So how we can improve the quality of image? If the gap is reduced or in a specified area, if I increase number of dots, that means the gap will reduce. So you will get the finer result in the image. I will show it how it happens. See this second part, the flat one. See the boundary of the object. So in real world the boundary is smooth, but because of the pixel gap the boundary is not now irregular. It is not as smooth as the real object. But this can be made smooth if the number of pixels are large. So sometimes the number of pixels or the gap, small gap, are preferred to have the crisp boundaries, and this terminology is referred as the DPI. You might have heard the name DPI. The DPI means the dots per inch. So if a camera has more DPI, it means it will capture the more smooth images, right? So whenever you purchase a camera or something image acquisition device, you always prefer the higher DPI, but obviously it will generate the more data, mind this. So for example, your mobile phone have camera, and you generally talk about the megapixels, right? So in a specified Windows area, the more megapixels means more DPI, okay? जितना ज़्यादा पिक्सल्स होंगे, काउंट उनका बढ़ेगा, उनके बीच में गैप उतना ही कम होगा, तो image will be smoother. So that's why we prefer more megapixels in cameras. Now there is another information loss. That's the secondary. This is due to the quantization of light intensity. What is the quantization? The light intensity which is coming to the sensor, it has all possible values with infinite resolution. Infinite resolution means if some intensity is, let's say 1, then other will be 1.000001, anything with infinite resolution. But machines cannot handle infinite resolutions. All these machines have finite capability. So what machine will do? Instead of capturing infinite intensities, variations, intensity variations means, see this object, in middle it is lighter, and outside near the boundary it is darker, and see the change in the intensity. It's a very smooth change in the shading. So that is the infinite resolution shading. But see that image which is captured by the camera. Here you can see those squares with a discrete intensity labels. Here the shading is not as smooth as the real object. This is because of the limited capacity of the machines. So what is quantization? If some light intensity is generated to a pixel generates voltage. This voltage can be anything in a specified range. Let's say if no light is coming, it's a complete darkness. What will be the voltage generated by the pixel? Nothing, it's a 0 volt. So pixel will generate 0 volt in complete darkness. If suppose the maximum brightness is coming, let's say pixel is maximum can generate 5 volt. So what's the range? that any intensity in the real world can be translated into any voltage between the range 0 to 5. So full darkness represents 0 volt and full brightness represents 5 volt. Now what I have to do, how the computer will take all these data inside? It will quantize the data, because between 0 to 5, pixels will generate, let's say 4.9999, pixel can generate, let's say 1.111, 0.94567878. There are infinite possibilities, but computer cannot handle infinite possibilities. So what it will do, it will compare all infinite possible combinations with predefined labels. जितनी भी इंटेंसिटीज आएंगी वो सब प्री डिफाइंड लेवल से कंपेयर हो. सो सपोज आई टेक ए 8-bit कोडर. 8 bit means how many labels? 2 power 8. That means 256 labels. So my 0 to 5 volt band will be divided by 256 labels. So what is the height of one label? How many volts? 5 upon 256, the very small voltage. So my intensity, instead of the smooth change, my intensity will now vary in discrete steps. So 0, and the next level is 5 upon 256, next level will be 5 upon 2 into 256, and so on, right? So I can visualize my image as like this. This is one good example. So this is real world object, which has the very smooth boundary and infinite shading, but digital camera takes like this, irregular boundary because of the pixel count or DPI, or the discrete shading. You know, the infinite or smooth change in shading is removed because of those 256 labels. Now how the computer sees this image? कंप्यूटर के लिए इमेज क्या है? कंप्यूटर के लिए इमेज सिर्फ एक मैट्रिक्स है. अब ये नंबर्स कैसे दिए? हाउ वी हैव असाइंड दीज नंबर्स? एज आई सेड, आई हैव 256 लेवल्स, सो आई हैव गिवन 0 to 0 volt, I have given 255 to 5 volt. So this 0 to 5 volt is divided into 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 127, 128 and 255. So there are 0 to 255, total 256 discrete intensity labels that my hardware can handle. So my hardware can handle only the 256 variations in intensity. So this is the image which is generated. You can see that all white pixels, white pixels means they are giving running at the maximum intensity. So I have given, or they are producing the 5 volt. So I have given 255 for all white pixels. They are producing the maximum voltage. As the intensity comes down, for example, see the 26, it is near 0 side, so it is darker in the shade. Okay. So when the number decreases, your intensity decreases. So that is how the computer sees the image as matrix. So these images are called grayscale images, and your all mobile phone or good cameras all are 8-bit cameras. All are 8-bit cameras. It means they can capture only the intensities in 256 discrete levels. Now see the effect of DPI. ये बहुत अच्छा example है. DPI means increase the number of pixels. So see the first image. Let me enlarge it. See this first image. This is captured by the 1250 DPI. This means in 1 inch distance there are 1250 pixels. So resolution is very high. So you can see that very fine details. I mean the small these sharp lines are also captured because the pixels are very near to each other. Now I decrease the pixel density. So this is taken at the 300 DPI. So slight degradation. 150 DPI, and see the 75 DPI. Useless image because the pixels are the distance between the pixels are more. So you see that the fine details are lost. So if you want in your camera the images should be very crisp and fine, select a camera with large DPI, but that will increase the cost. Now see the intensity quantization effect. That means, as I said, I have taken the 8-bit, means 256 shades in shading. So the first image is taken with the 8-bit. So in that image, there are 256 variations of intensity. The second image is taken by the 7 bits, not much difference, 1 bit is saved. The third one is taken with the 6 bits, and this one is with the 5th bits. And see that one, which is taken in the 4-bit intensity level. So 4-bit intensity, how many levels? कितना लेवल हुआ? 2 power 4. कितना हुआ? कितने लेवल्स हुए? 2 power 4 कितना हुआ भाई? अरे 2 power 4 कितना हुआ? 32. 2 power 2, 4, 2 power 3, 8 और 2 power 4. अरे 2 गुणा 2 गुणा 2 4 बार कितना हुआ? 16 हुआ ना. तो इस इमेज में 16 लेवल्स हैं इंटेंसिटी की. तो आप जरा ध्यान से देखिए, इसमें जो शेडिंग है, स्कल पे शेडिंग देखिए, वहाँ देखिए, देयर इज अ स्मूथ शेडिंग इन द इमेज. नाउ यू कैन सी द variations or discrete regions of shading, because I am using only the 16 different labels to represent the shades. And this last one is a 1-bit shading. So 1-bit shading means the pixel is either on or pixel is either off. So complete on, complete off means it will generate this type of image. So white means full pixel are running at the full brightness, the black means pixels are not running, they are off. So this is how the full 8-bit images and the low intensity image, that's the difference. So whenever you go for good quality display, we always go for 8-bit, and all these general purpose or your cameras, they have the 8-bit quantizer. Okay? Now see the different types of images. Generally we are aware with the color, we live in a color world. So color image, grayscale image and the binary image. So I have taken the example of grayscale image. अभी तक जो कर रहे थे वो क्या था? 8-bit per pixel. So the grayscale image means the every dot is defined by the 2 power 8 variations of shades. And this binary image, it's only the 2 shades. Either pixel is on, pixel is off on your screen. See that color one, it's slightly different. Is how it is different? See in the next picture. How the color images are made? Color images actually are composite in nature. When you see something on your monitor or your television or your mobile phone, you are actually observing, you are seeing the 3 images simultaneously. See this display. This is one section of your TV. अब आप घर पे जाके जरा closely match करिए, देखिए lens लगा के. Your TV might have this sort of pixel arrangement. So your TV has actually 3 screens. One screen which is made by only the red color LEDs. Other screen is made by only the green color LEDs, and the last one is made by only the blue color LEDs. ये जो तीनों screens हैं, they all run simultaneously. So see that this image, I have decomposed this image into RGBN channel. So that the first image will be made by the only the red LEDs. जो जितने भी red LEDs हैं वो पूरा फ्रेम उसमें ये पिक्चर बनेगा, ग्रीन में ये बनेगा और ब्लू में वो बनेगा. So when we look all these one over other, you see a color picture. But how colors are produced? See, this is by the combination of R, G and B. This is by the combination of R, G and B. For example, if you want to produce this daylight can be produced by glowing your red LED, glowing your blue LED and glowing your green LED simultaneously, but at a proper balanced intensity. See, the daylight can be simulated if you give let's say my LEDs gives full brightness when I give 5 volt to it. It becomes off when I give 0 volt. And if I give any volt between 0 to 5 in those steps, 256 steps, it will run, it will give brightness according to the voltage. So if I give this distribution is like this, green is given 52%, 55% voltage, and red is given some 48 something, or blue is given some 10%. So this becomes total 100, and this 100 simulates this daylight. So daylight is not by glowing all the 3 LEDs at full brightness. No, there is a combinations, some 55%, 28% or 10% sort of things. So with that matrix you can generate how many colors? How many colors? If each pixel is controlled by 8 bit. कितने combinations होंगे? It's a problem of combination. So one red frame will generate 2 power 8 combinations. Green will generate 2 power 8 combinations. Blue will generate 2 power 8 combinations. Simultaneously 3 screens will generate 2 power 8 into 2 power 8 into 2 power 8, that is 2 power 24 combinations. What is 2 power 24 combinations? How many colors? If you have calculator you can do quickly. Mobile phone में calculator होता है, करके देखिए आप. This comes to 16.7 millions. This comes to 16.7 million color combinations. So your 8-bit RGB image can produce 16.7 million color combinations. तो आपने जनरली एडवर्टिजमेंट में देखा होगा, जब कोई टीवी का एडवर्टिजमेंट होता है, मोबाइल फ़ोन का एडवर्टिजमेंट होता है, दे क्लेम दिस स्क्रीन इज एबल टू जनरेट 16.7 million colors. That is because of the 8-bit per frame, right? Now what is the video? So if I am watching a color video, means I am watching such images, 30 images in 1 second. So they are in 1 second, they are generated or showed on screen 30 images in 1 second, one by one. So you feel something is moving on the screen. So you see the intensity or amount of the data generated while showing the video. If I consider a full HD video, full HD means there are 1920 pixels in horizontal and 180 pixels in vertical. So total number of pixels are 180 into 1920. Let me calculate for you. (1080) multiplied with 1920 pixels. This is these are the pixels in one frame. And how many frames are there in color image, single color image? 3 frames. One is R, one is G, one is GB. So it's a repetition of so many pixels. So multiplied with 3. And how many frame total such pictures in 1 second in video? 30 pictures in video in 1 second. So multiplied with the 30. And each pixel is of how many bit? 8 bit. So multiplied with 8 bit. So it is generated so many amount divided by 8 to convert in bytes. So this is bytes divided by 1024 kilobytes and divided by 1024 again in megabytes. So this is 177 megabytes around in 1 second. So your full HD video has a data rate of 180 MB around per second. So obviously you need a very dedicated hardware for that. So this is the full HD. I talked about full HD, but nowadays we are interested in what type of displays? 4K. 4K. Have you heard the name? 4K display. So 4K display means this FHD is multiplied by 4 in both horizontal and vertical. So number of pixels are 4 times in 4K display than FHD, full HD. So you can see the huge amount of data is generated per second. And now the 8K displays have come in the market. Your few TVs which cost around 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, they have 8K, 4K displays and generating huge amount of data, right? So that is why we need the compression. We need compression, data compression, because even if I capture a simple image with camera, let's say full HD image, so 1080 multiplied with 1920 multiplied with 3 multiplied with 8 divided by 8 divided by 1024 divided by 1024. So it comes to 5.93 MB megabytes. That means 6 megabytes. So one full HD image is expressed in 6 megabytes. तो 6 मेगाबाइट का एक इमेज बहुत हैवी है. सो अगर आप इंटरनेट पे ट्रांसफ़र कर रहे हैं तो इट टेक्स लॉट ऑफ टाइम और हैंडलिंग इज़ डिफ़िकल्ट. सो इमेज कंप्रेशन इज़ रिक्वायर्ड. सो यू हैव हर्ड सम नेम्स of when you work in computer, you store some images, you give there is some extension in the file name. You say generally in normal conversation, what type of image is this? This is a JPEG image, you know, some file name myphoto.jpg, ये जानते होंगे आप लोग, JPG. Some file names have .bmp, some file names have .png, GIF, GIF image. So these are actually the compression technologies, compression algorithms. So this raw data, which is 6 MB, is compressed to few kilobytes using these compression algorithm. So JPG, whenever you use JPG now, give it to enough respect. It is a great success in this world. It has compressed data tremendously. The megabytes is compressed in KBs, kilobytes. Similarly in audio also. Audio is also a compression technique. उसमें भी बहुत सारा compressions use करते हैं. The raw data, how the raw data is generated. Suppose I am speaking in this mouth. I am speaking in this mouth. This is analog data. Some voltage waves are coming here. When this analog data comes into this computer, computer is a discrete device. It understands the digital data. Only the 0 volt, 5 volt, 0 volt, 5 volt something. So it has to be digitized. Thus, in a similar way, the images are digitized. In the same way, the audio is also digitized. So what happens? This continuous wave, what you see in some movies, sort of things. This is sampled. Sampled means we choose instances, and we do this sampling very fast. And it is fast as, let's say, 44,100 samples per second. That is the minimum for a quality audio. So if you have a analog audio stream, there is a switch, electronic switch, which samples it. Samples means it's a chopping. And how much chopping? 44,000 or 45,000 chopping per second. So that analog wave is chopped 45,000 per samples. And these samples are quantized. Again, as the intensities were quantized by 8 bits, in similar fashion, each sample of audio is quantized in number of bits. So if suppose there is a 12-bit coder, so in 1 second audio, 44,100 samples are generated. Each sample is converted into 8 bits or 12 bits. So 44,100 multiplied with 8 bits, and if it's a 5-minute song, then multiplied with 60 into 60 into 5. So the huge megabytes are generated in 5 minutes audio song. So that is not possible again. So compressions are required. So the very famous compression algorithm is, what is? You daily listen that. That's the MP3. The MP3.MP3, that is the compression algorithm which compresses the raw data into compressed audio file. So you have various. For videos, we have MPEG, MKV, AVI, so many compression techniques, right? So that's the world of engineering. I won't go for now. I am finishing. I can take 2 minutes. I will show one implementation of machine learning without deep learning for face recognition. So that is important. Face recognition. This is one project which I gave to my students in this semester, but ultimately I have to finish it, right? So let me show that how we have achieved the face recognition. I'm not going into the technical detail, I'm just running it. I have not used any deep learning, I have just used the machine learning algorithms. I am also not doing training because it will take time, training is done, I am just showing the testing. So run this program. It will ask me to choose images. For training, I have used 800 images, and for testing, I have used 200 images. So, actually, this is my student who is photographed. So, from 1 to 800, these are images which are used in training. ये ट्रेनिंग में यूज़ हो चुकी हैं. तो अगर इनमें से आप कोई एक इमेज चूज़ करोगे तो वो कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है, वो तो डेटाबेस में है ही पहले से. So I will choose after 800. Let's say this image 802 and see what happens. This is the outcome. I have displayed the first 5 nearest match. So this is the input image, and these are the first match, the nearest match, and these are the rest matches. So this face is recognized, and try another image. Take, let's say this 865. See, recognition. Actually, I have tried something, and it is really doing extraordinarily. So one day when I will get time, I will publish it somewhere, and see the its strength. See its strength. It's robustness, I should say, robustness. I have distorted some images like this. Now, let's see what happens if I give this as input. See output. It is really doing well. I scratched so much part, still it is able to recognize the face. We can try one more. Just last one. This one. See, this I have distorted. See this image. This is not clear. This I have distorted with some motion blur. Still, the image recognition is doing well. So, my planning is to make an attendance system for the students. So, I will put a camera at the gate of classroom or in front of, so each students will enter and there will be automatic attendance for either students or employee. So right now we are doing this thumb impression for attendance. So sometime I don't feel it is a hygienic. So many people put their finger on the same glass. I don't know what they have done before. So my planning is that it's better to use a face detection. So you just come over the camera, your attendance is on. Okay. So thank you very much. So if you have any doubt, any queries, I am here to solve that. I have many things to explain, a lot of things in mind, but time is time. We have to stop at some moment. Even the life stops at some moment. Okay. Yeah, I can come to you.
Sir, you were applying RGB theory for the image recognition. Can we apply
It's not RGB theory.
Okay.
For this particular work, I have used the machine learning, in which I am doing I am extracting the features in the transform domain. I have applied the wavelet transform. This is one of my expertise. So you might have heard the name of various transforms like Fourier transform, discrete cosine transform, Laplace transform. The similar way there is a wavelet transform, which is extensively used for images and videos. So I have utilized that strength of wavelet transform. I have converted the RGB image into the wavelet coefficients. Then with some statistical property of those coefficients I have utilized. For example, I have used a standard deviation of those coefficients. So with those standard deviations, I have prepared a feature vector, and the length of feature vector is very large. It's about some 300, 400 points in one feature vector. So if feature vector is large, your algorithm will be slow in searching, because you have thousands of images or thousands of feature vectors in database. So if one input image comes, it will be converted into feature vector, and that feature vector has to be compared with all those thousands of feature vectors in database. So if feature vector is large, obviously the computation will be there, large computation, and that will take time. So to reduce the dimension of that feature vector, I have reduced its size using PCA. PCA is a principal component analysis, which is extensively used for dimensionality reduction. So that 500 point feature vector is just reduced into the 70 points feature vector, only the 70. So with these small features, I can detect faces so efficiently, and this is very fast. So because of its fastness, such projects can be implemented in mobile applications also. Okay, this can, although it is developed in MATLAB environment, if somebody is expert in Java coding or Android application development, he can convert this into the mobile application. So I can put it on Play Store, you can download, and I can put some charge, I can earn the money, right? The same things can be done.
Sir, one more basic question. DPI and pixel both are the same?
Pixel is one element of the image. Pixel is a tiny dot. In case of camera, it's a part of CCD chip. It's a small transistor. Have you studied MOSFET? MOSFET पता है आपको? पढ़ा है आपने MOSFET क्या भी? तो MOSFET is a transistor which has drain, gate and source terminals. So the gate is responsible to generate the drain source current. So in this case, the gate is transparent, and the charge generation is obtained because of the light energy. So when light falls, the electrons are generated, some charge is generated, some voltage generated, and that is given to the gate of MOSFET. And because of that, the drain source current starts flowing. So that drain source current is taken as a output to the CCD device. But if you talk about the displays means your mobile screen or your television, this pixel is referred to as a tiny LED light emitting diode. जिस छोटा बल्ब जो हर जगह देखते हैं, छोटे छोटे बल्ब जो होते हैं, LED बल्ब वो है. तो डिस्प्ले में वो कैसे चल रहा है? We are giving voltage from 0 to 5 in steps of 256 levels. So if you giving 0 volt, it is not glowing. If you giving 5 volt, it is glowing at full intensity. If you give intermediate voltage, it is giving a slower intensity. So that is why how you can glow a particular LED at the different intensity levels. And with the combinations of all these, you can generate the image. So in RGB or in color image, you have 3 such screens. One screen is red, one screen is green, one screen is blue. And the proper combination of this R, G and B we can generate, I have said as an example, 16.7 million colors if I am using 8-bit controller. If I am using higher bit controller, I can even generate more colors. But there is a limitation of the human eye. Why to generate more data if my eyes are not able to differentiate even this between the two labels in this 256 environment? So they are sufficient. Anything? Any other question? So you might have enough motivation for doing research. Believe me, it's really very addicting type of things. Once you involve in it, you can be a crazy person doing, but your social life may be affected. You are spending hours on computers and learning new things, and this is my hobby also. So I spend a lot of time on internet, not for surfing or social media. Application?
Application, some base applications on internet, AI based applications.
Yes. AI is, let me show one slide, just one slide. Because of last time I skipped that. this one. It is showing some potential applications of image processing. For example, the watermarking. Watermarking is very popular to protect the digital content. For example, suppose you sell the images. You are a photographer. You take beautiful photos and sell on internet. So what happens? This person steals those photographs and sell those images. So how you will catch him? Yeah, the digital watermarking is one way. So what you do, you hide some information in those images. अब छोटा सा एक information, some text or some code is hidden in those images. So if you copy this image, that information is also hidden information is also copied. But that is not visible, it is invisible. So if you sell my photograph, I will extract that image, that information from your image, and I can put you behind the bar. So that is a matter of copyright content. People are working to avoid the movie piracy, that means giving such facilities in the videos. I have also published 2 papers for video watermarking. The people are also working. The second is the image denoising. Image denoising, that means images are corrupted. For example, you take photographs using camera. Not every time you get good photographs. Sometimes they are shaky, sometimes corrupted by the noise, grains. So this is one area where we have many algorithms to rectify those problems in images. The third one is a very important, optical character recognition. Optical character recognition was one which I have shown with the AI, that digit recognition. Suppose there is some notes I get from this student, some notes, and I have to make the soft copy of it. So from notes I have to type each and everything. So it's sometimes frustrating, who will type all these things. So what happens, I think there should be some typewriter for me. So OCR is the reply for that. You just take image of that document, you just take a photograph of that document. The OCR algorithm will identify each and every text from that image, and it will give the Word file or text file for you. So you don't need to type the document. Okay, but it has challenges because it works poorly when there is a handwritten or cursive writing sort of things. For machine printed, it is well. For example, in Adobe Reader Pro version, there is an inbuilt OCR. You can convert your document images into Adobe or PDF or Word files. Second is the content-based image retrieval. Very good area. Image retrieval, that means from the huge database of images, you want to retrieve a particular image. This is image search by giving image. For example, you want the image of orange. So there is one way. How do you do on Google? You type orange. Okay, so you get all oranges image. There is another way. You give image of orange. That is not text input. That is the image input to the Google. Have you tried it? How many of you have tried the giving image as input to the Google search? अगर नहीं किया है तो आप करके देखिए. जो ऐसे जो सर्च टेक्स्ट बॉक्स आता है उसके राइट साइड में एक माइक बना होता है और एक फोटोग्राफ का एक आइकन बना होता है. यू क्लिक इट विल आस्क टू अपलोड द इमेज. तो ये आपसे इमेज मांगेगा, गिव द इमेज एंड इट विल सर्च ऑल द रिलेवेंट इमेजेस फ्रॉम द डेटाबेस. एंड सेकंड इज द फेस रिकॉग्निशन विच आई हैव शोन, that is used for surveillance and security and fingerprint, etc. Many things are there, right? Thank you.